Imagine if suddenly your city froze, the temperature dropped by 80 degrees Celsius, and over 90% of the world's population died. Frozen after weeks of freezing, those who survived in their homes have water and electricity cut off with nothing to eat and no way to stay warm. Everyone starves. Our protagonist is the only one who prepared for the end of the world and has a comfortable life, and for those who can afford his price, he can provide a little food. His price is steep, but not everything started well. The truth is, in the year 2050, a star explosion caused Earth to enter an ice age. Zhang worked at a Walmart warehouse and thus managed to stockpile a lot of food in the apocalypse. The girl he liked broke into his house with a group of neighbors and stole all his food. She admits she tricked him into opening the door on his deathbed. Zhang swore that if he could find her in hell, he would get his revenge for some reason. He returns 3 months back in time before everything happened, surprised he swears not to be a sucker for the girl anymore, to take revenge on those who deserve it, and to see his neighbors suffer and to enjoy it as well. There are 3 months left until the extreme cold arrives. His priority is to stockpile everything he needs before the end of the world and build a safe house. As she pondered how to start this plan, a bright light passes through his eyes, and instead of blindness, he discovers she can send things to a different dimension like a game inventory. His ideas to accumulate here an entire supermarket of foods, so he never has to worry about food and drink for years, thinking about all the good food he won't be able to eat in 3 months. Zhang Yi goes to a luxury restaurant to stuff himself, spends 50,000 Korean won, puts it all on his credit card because in 3 months, all his problems will be over. The girl Fang, whom he had been in love with for years and never got anywhere with, and who betrayed him in his past life along with her friends, sees that he went to a luxury restaurant. Her friend says she's lucky because Sethi Slozer does everything for her and he must be rich. Now Fanging in my last life pretended to be innocent and virginal, and in the end still everything. I had even your arms right now. I want to kill that. Right here, but that would land me in jail. I have to wait until the end of the world to do something. Zhang Yi flashes his bank card and asks, do you want to go shopping at the supermarket? He uses them both to carry everything and show that he now has money, and they accept happily in hopes of making some profit. They ask why so much food, and the protagonist says you never know when an apocalypse might happen, and it's good to be prepared. The two opportunists complain that he's not carrying anything and that they're doing him a big favor. Now Zhang Yi owes them a luxurious dinner, like the one he had for laughing coldly inside. Zhang looks forward to the time when it's his turn to treat them very well. I'm looking forward to that too. At the market exit, his Aunt Lin with her grandson says, you can't eat all of that alone. Give some to your aunt. After saying this, the 5-year-old grandson steals his shopping cart. Zhang Yi takes it back. Sorry, I'll eat it all by myself. The child starts throwing a tantrum, cursing at Zhang Yi. I'll punch your teeth out if you keep this up. The kid starts crying immediately. Aunt Lin asks what he's doing, an adult fighting with Ek. Hilden says she'll buy the chocolate, she'll transfer the money later. He's his QR code and says not later. Now his old lady pass it over, now or go to the market to buy it. The leaves leaving Aunt Li angry. Arriving home, Fang Yuqing winked at them, and the two told him not to forget about them. Slammed the door in those faces after sending the two away. Zhang Yi put all the purchased food in storage space to see if it's spoils over time. He still has a lot of building an impenetrable fortress with heating devices and medical supplies. It would also be great if he could get some weapons. There were 3 months left until the Ice Age. By then he has to sell everything he has as quickly as possible and get more. The next day, looking at the storage space, he checks the freshness of the food and discovers that living creatures cannot be stored, but the food remains as fresh as when he stored it. Knowing this, Zhang picked up his phone and contacted the best local restaurant, ordering 500 full meals for delivery. He explained that he would be hosting a 3-day, 3-night feast, so he needed so much food. His next step was to find his property deed and go to the bank to mortgage his apartment, considering that after the apocalypse, money would become less paper. Zhang Yi decided to take out a loan with his apartment as collateral. In 3 months, he would make the payment for this loan. The manager warned that the interest rate would be a bit high, but upon hearing this, Zhang Yi rubbed his hands together, indicating that it didn't matter if the interest rates were high. He got 9 million and would pay 30 million in 3 months or lose his house in Karna. They went to the best security company. A business manager approached and asked if he needed help. Zhang shared his idea of building a safe house for the apocalypse. The business manager presented various plans for the protagonist to choose from, but was not satisfied with the ones presented. He declared that the house should be reinforced with aviation materials, the balcony should use bulletproof F-glass in addition to adding an air filtration system, and a 360-degree blind spot-free monitoring system. The front door should be made of the same material as bank vault doors. Additional Y asked the manager to find a way to obtain some weapons. The business manager was surprised by these renovations and the need for weapons. She could get everything except the weapons. Zhang Yi concluded that this would turn the house into a fortress. The final plan cost 8 million, and after paying the deposit, asked them to start the work immediately next to needed. To obtain some weapons for self-defense, he CED, the owner of a hunting club, and managed to get some crossbows as weapons as soon as she returned home. The 500 full meal she had ordered also arrived on several trucks. This caught the attention of many people in the neighborhood as they were delivery trucks from a 5-star hotel, which would cost at least 1 million or so after some time. Zhang Yi's house was filled wasting Nodum hip put everything into storage space. Basically why he wouldn't need to worry about food for years of his life. The next day, the security company workers came to start building the safe house. This scene attracted the attention of many neighbors who mocked Zhang Yi, asking if he had taken the wrong medication. However, he didn't care because he believed that when the end came, they would find out who was the joke. Next, Zhang Yi went to the manager of the company where he works and bought a portion of the medicine supplies, offering double the market price to have priority to buy everything, even what was already sold to other companies. Then he transported these things shown little by little. His recent stockpiling activities also caught the attention of Fang Guqing, who asked something was about to happen, mentioning that she had been thinking a lot about him recently. The protagonist didn't want to respond to Fang Guqing's fake concern, leaving her angry. Zhang Yi, the suckapu to do everything she asked, suddenly started ignoring her. His best friends simply laughed at the situation. She stated that if something big was happening, the country would definitely notify everyone. All she has to do is win over then Vorace Zhang Yi so they can benefit after weeks. Zhang Yi's safe house was successfully built. The company also installed surveillance systems on every floor of the building. Zhang Yi was very pleased with the service. Now only one last batch of supplies was about to arrive. Several trucks of drinking water arrived successively. One of the delivery drivers was his uncle Yu, who lives in his neighborhood. He seemed curious as to why his nephew ordered so many gons of drinking water in his past life. Uncle Yu was one of the few good people to Zhang Yi, so he whispered to his uncle, "Uncle, the weather this year is going to be very cold. You should stock up on supplies. Prepare as soon as possible." Hearing this, Uncle Yu didn't want to believe, but upon seeing Zhang Yi's serious face, he couldn't help but take it seriously. "Get back to work, you lazy boom." The following weeks, Zhang Yi spent this days spending his money stocking up more and more supplies and training with the bow every day. With only 3 days left until the extreme cold, the weather was already abnormal. The final moment arrived. Zhang Yi, at this job where he's the stock supervisor, made tea and invited all his colleagues for a drink. After they drank, an hour later, they sit out after turning off the surveillance cameras. It's his time to calmly steal the resources from the Walmart warehouse, fuel, food, and equipment. He quickly empties the warehouse. One of the boxes caught this attention: cold resistance equipment that had recently been purchased by the company. They could withstand temperatures of use 100 degrees to complete his perfect plan. Zhang Yi also took a special sleeping tea and joined his coal EES 2 hours later. He's awakened by his employees, saying they are screwed. The warehouse was robbed. They took everything. Upon hearing this, he pretends to be surprised. How did all the warehouse products disappear? The manager calls him, asking about the warehouse supplies. Left knowing that the entire warehouse was empty to tons without leaving any clues, an event the cameras didn't see. The manager immediately accuses the supervisor of planning this crime with more people. Zhang Yi, nervously smiling, says he's not competent enough for that. Everyone is taken to the police station to give statements, but nothing is found out. How could they find out that the warehouse was teleported? After the interrogation, the police officers not to leave the city under any circumstances, as everyone is a suspect maliciously. Zhang Yi says he won't even leave the house. This incident on December 10th made news in the city. Noon can believe that tons of supplies disappeared without a trace in less than 3 hours. It was also on this day that heavy snowfall began in the sky. Zhang Yi knew this was the beginning of the cold apocalypse. 3 days later at home, when the shockwave from a supernova explosion brings catastrophe to the entire planet, the temperature starts dropping rapidly overnight. Looking at the heavy snow through the window, Zhang Yi says that this time the story will be different. The people in the apartment owners group were nervous, as it was the first time they had seen so much snow in the city. Observing everything in the building group, Zhang Yi knows that for many people this was the first and also the last time they saw snow in his past life. The heavy snowstorm lasted for 3 whole months, and the temperature kept dropping, causing many people who had not stocked up on food beforehand to freeze to death on these End day off freezing weather, the heavy snow at the residential area entrance had already accumulated to a height of 1. Even if people turned the heater to the maximum, they still trembled from the cold inside the house. However, Zhang Yi, who had prepared several pieces of heating equipment beforehand, was comfortably warm, comfortable after a good sleep. Zhang Yi was awakened by the noise of the phone. It was a call from the naughty Yuqing asking if Zhang Yi knew about the temperature drop when he stocked up supplies every day in the last few months, and why he did. Nativan informed her who likes him so much. Now she's freezing cold and eating instant noodles. Hearing this, Zhang yellowed and hung up the phone on her face. The damn girl got angry on the other sides. She then shamelessly sent Tatex asking for food. And it wasn't even that way. Reading the message, Zhang Yi decided to troll a bit the Xanthera photo of a steak with wine, which she immediately recognized as top quality Wagwanda, very expensive French wine. At that moment, the urge to have some became strong and asked her to, and he asked her to eat it with him and drink wine too. Zhang Yi's response was that if she wanted, she could go to the market and buy it herself. Despite her anger, she calmed down because she needed to please Zhang Yi to be able to go to his place too. After that, he just ignored her and went back to enjoying his meal. It was then, on the building's surveillance cameras on the iPad screen, that he saw the show Aunt Lin, who is the building manager, saying not to panic and not to fight over food. She mentioned that the extreme weather would last at most 2 or 3 days and that the neighborhood committee would help everyone through this. Aunt Lin warned that excessive hoarding of supplies was prohibited and would be reported to the authorities if discovered. However, one person spoke out against it, questioning how she could be sure that the heavy snowfall wouldn't last long. The surrounding residents also wanted to know, stating that if they didn't stock up on supplies now, Aunt Lin would be responsible if they ran out of food. Aunt Lin then stated that the neighborhood committee would take responsibility for this issue, then pointed to Zhang Yi to divert attention, just to tell him not to cause trouble. He didn't care about the threats and went back to his super safe house. A week passed, and the snow outside kept falling. Aunt Lin asked the building group for Zhang Yi, who is young, to clear the snow from the building's door. He said it was useless to clear because it would be like trying to dry a river with a bucket. By refusing Aunt Lin's request to clear the snow, Zhang Yi suggested she ask the rich people in the neighborhood for help. She was furious and clearly just trying to pick a fight. Angrily, she said that on behalf of the neighborhood committee, this was an order, and whoever opposed the orders would be blamed by the neighborhood committee for the problems. Questioning why Aunt Lin didn't call the rich people in the neighborhood to do the heavy lifting, he proposed that Aunt Lin ask Chunjiang how to clear the snow. Chunjiang is a construction boss. He has employees for that, and Xing Song is a rich guy and can afford to pay if he doesn't want to help like everyone else. The authority of Aunt Lin in the group was shattered, and upon reading the messages, Lin, cursing, decided to call both members of the group to clean the snow together, tagging them in the chat. Upon seeing the message, Chunjiang immediately got angry with Aunt Lin and with Zhang Yi for acting as if he owned the place. Xing Song sent an audio message in the group, saying he was busy working hard and sent a photo to show how busy he was. Aunt Lin was furious with the rich guy's response, but didn't question anything. She just accused Zhang Yi of causing this confusion. Zhang Yi didn't bother and ignored the rest. Aunt Lin was so furious that she called Zhang Yi personally to complain. He threatened her that if she kept talking nonsense and bothering him, he would kill her. Trembling with fear, she hung up and didn't say anything else in the group. While he was eating, a loud noise came from the front door, and Chunjiang outside shouted, "You were acting all high and mighty in the chat, putting others against me in the group. I'm going to kill you now, punk!" Zhang Yi grabbed his bow and went to the door. While Chunjiang was kicking, magically aiming through the door opening, he asked about who would kill whom first. Zhang Yi hit Chunjiang's shin with an arrow through the peephole. He saw the arrogant guy on the floor, groaning in pain non-stop. No one would have imagined that a silly and naive boy, an honest person, would have the courage to react like this. Chunjiang didn't know that this was just the beginning of Zhang Yi's revenge. With the cold temperature, Chunjiang could die if not treated in time. He would slowly die from infection, and Weak would die from the cold. Struggling to reach the elevator, he didn't imagine that this kid he had seen 3 times in his life would do this to him. The truth is that Zhang Yi wanted to kill him at once. Realizing this, he got scared, grabbed the phone, and called an emergency. But because of the snow, any assistance was impossible. So he treated himself. Taking advantage of the cold and numb leg, he removed the arrow himself. Then, he picked up the phone again to threaten in the owner's group, telling Zhang Yi to watch his words. Chunjiang will kill you fearlessly. Zhang Yi responded confidently, come here again, and I'll kill you. This conversation left the curious ones in the chat group horrified. After all, no one in the region would have the courage to go against Chunjiang. This was the first time someone directly confronted the guy. Furious, he grabbed the phone and called all his employees. In no time, a herd of people, each holding their own weapon, arrived at his house. Baldi led them all to Zhang Yi's door. Zhang Yi, you offended our big bro. Today is the day of your death. Attacking the door that was supposed to be made of wood, his sword broke, and he flew spinning away. Scared, Baldi said, this door is made of pure metal. How many enemies does this kid have? His house is more protected than a bank. Watching the security cameras, Zhang Yi said they seemed weak and must be hungry. The group of people grew angrier and angrier. Zhang Yi had the idea of grabbing a water hose and turning it on from the kitchen tap. The workers outside saw the door opening passage, not understanding anything because it wasn't an arrow, so there was no danger. The hose sprayed cold water on all of them. A bunch of them fell to the frozen ground. Only a few managed to escape. This scene left Zhang Yi quite satisfied. In this freezing cold water is more dangerous than weapons. In Chunjiang's house, 3 of them who escaped huddled together, trembling with cold. He angrily asked, what happened? An entire group couldn't catch a boy. The 3 explained that Zhang Yi was very clever. He put a burglar-proof steel door in the apartment, and he sprayed cold water on all of us through a hole in the door. Chunjiang said, he can't hide there forever. Put some men to guard his door day and night. When he needs to leave the house, get him and bring him. At the building's entrance, Uncle Yu led some people to clear the snow at the residential area's entrance, planning to dig a path to the supermarket to restock food. But they realized that, as Zhang Yi said, they couldn't dig as fast as the snow fell. After a while, they gave up and prepared to return. Watching this, Zhang Yi said that human power can't beat one of this size. Even though the television is reassuring all citizens that the country is winning the snow disaster, Zhang Yi is the only one who knows that 95% of the global population froze to death in this snow disaster. His lifelong passion sends a message asking if he's okay. If she didn't know the truth, she could be here with him in luxury. Zhang Yi says he's fine. She says she's out of food and reminds him that he bought a lot of stuff. Give me some, and later I'll invite you to dinner here. Slightly, Zhang Yi sends a photo of a lobster and says it's already being served for dinner. Seeing this, she gets annoyed, thinking that's why he's single. His chances with her are over now. Her best friend takes the opportunity to send a message too, saying, you made Fanguqin sad now. Seeing this message, Zhang Yi says that this little drama is weak. The best friend gives up, saying that the snow won't last long. Why can't you help your lovely neighbors? You might even win Fanguqin over. That would be great for you. Zhang Yi ignores and responds with just an "oh." This pisses off the other women too. This loser suddenly turned so alpha, sigma, red pill. Yuqing gives up trying to figure out why his loser attitude changed so suddenly. They have the idea that if this loser isn't served anymore, they can use another one with less money. Yuqing called another loser, Zhou Ping. He came running and brought a big bag of supplies, saying it's all the food he has. Before Yuqing could fool another sucker, her friend slammed the door in his face. From the friend's expression, she didn't even care. She was just thinking about getting revenge on Zhang Yi for ignoring her. With this additional bag, they could last 5 days. 5 days passed, and the snow kept increasing. While eating a piece of chicken and waiting for the real drama to begin, all the buildings were in the dark with the electricity cut off. Soon, neighbors started coming out of their homes, asking each other if they had electricity. Now, with both water and electricity cut off, the heaters no longer worked. It was getting cold enough to die inside, even under the blankets. Before finishing the chicken, Zhang Wei was picking his teeth and turning on the generator he had bought before, or perhaps stolen, because he did that too. At the neighborhood committee, Aunt Lin was trembling as she held her grandson. She never expected the snowstorm to last so long. A message arrived in the group chat she was in, saying that this was a global snowstorm that occurs once every 100,000 years. We could be on the brink of a mass extinction event. Several important cities in the country have already been affected. Everyone must stock up on more supplies. Reading this, Aunt Lin was shocked. She never imagined the snow disaster would be so severe. Then, she thought of a plan. She needed to make all the residents give up their food before they received this news. Aunt Lin posted a message in the owners group saying, "Do not worry, this disaster is temporary. Workers are currently repairing the water and power interruptions. The authorities have issued an order. Because of these extraordinary circumstances, the neighborhood committee will manage all property owners. Those who do not cooperate will be arrested and interrogated by the police." Seeing this message, everyone became dissatisfied, especially Chunjang. But even if he was influential, if it was a police order, he had to obey. Meanwhile, Aunt Lin continued in the group chat. Due to the seriousness of the snowstorm, the neighborhood committee has decided to collect all supplies from each owner and distribute them equally to everyone to help overcome this crisis. Upon seeing this message, Zhang Wei remembered that she had done the same thing in her past life and had stolen food from all the residents. Aunt Lin's mistake was sending a message privately to Zhang Wei, saying, "My nephew, you work in the warehouse. I saw you last time buying 3 truckloads of stuff. You must have stocked up a lot of food. It's your turn to do your part." Zhang Wei, angry, immediately replied with an audio message, "You armed liar. I ate too much and ran out of supplies at home. When she collects from the building, come share some with me." Hearing this audio nearly gave the old lady a heart attack from anger. How could he have ruined everything so quickly? But realizing that she and her grandson were in dire straits and depended on Zhang Wei, the lady calmed down and responded kindly, "This is an order from the organization. You have to obey. After the snow passes, I will report your good deeds to the organization."